Welcome to the Healers Café, the number one show for medical practitioners and holistic healers to have heart to heart conversations about their day to day lives while sharing their expertise for improving your health and wellness. Welcome to the Healers Cafe. And today I have with me Niraj Naik. And he's a professional musician and a pharmacist turned holistic health and breathwork expert. He has created a global community of heart-centered change makers by founding Soma Breath, the global breathwork and wellness movement with over 2,000 certified instructors and hundreds of thousands of students around the globe. Now, he's known internationally as the renegade pharmacist because Niraj is dedicated to educating others on topics of holistic health, breathwork, meditation, and so much more. I think at this point, Niraj, I'm just going to welcome you and ask you, how did this journey begin? It seems like a pharmacist. I mean, I guess you're exposed to what's happening. Maybe that's the truth, but yeah, tell us a little bit about your journey and welcome to this talk.
Well, absolute pleasure to be here. And yeah, I've been through a bit of a crazy journey. Definitely seen both sides of the story from working in conventional, pharmacy, where I was dishing out pills every day, like a lot, for 7 years. And I just got really depressed with the way the system works and very disillusioned, partly because I actually ran a business before that where I ran some of the biggest raves in the UK back in 1999. For 3 years, I had a 2,000 people venue, which was every month we would throw these amazing events. And that's where I thought I was going to be a DJ, promoter, artist. And then I lost everything and ended up as a pharmacist. That was what I fell back on. My parents were like, you know, you got to do something so that you have something to fall back on. So that was a bit of a lucky thing that I had that. But it was also one of the worst and best things that ever happened to me because,
Mm.
firstly, it was so depressing. Like going from, imagine being on stage, playing to thousands of people, to suddenly now a lab coat on, white shirt, dishing out pills all day long, putting labels on bottles, counting out pills, and then what I quickly realized was that there was a problem with the business model, right? Because I was like, the business model of pharmacy, as an entrepreneur, I could see it, was you have to have patients forever. If you
Right.
cure people, it's over for the business, right? So the whole business model makes sense. And the business model actually means that the more sick people are, right, and the more drugs you can prescribe to the same patient, the more money the company makes. So the side effect of the business means more sick people and basically a lot more suffering because anything other than that would mean less business for big pharma. So for me to feel that, experience that that's what I'm doing for a living every day, just
Mhm.
destroyed my soul. And what I
Yeah.
found really strange was how many pharmacists just came in, clocked in and out, didn't give a shit about their patients at all. They
Mm.
didn't seem the same kind of spiritual void as I did, and they also, a lot of them um, thought it was okay. They didn't want to go too deeper into how it all works because the truth would probably scare them. So I, being a very inquisitive person who just sees things like a hawk, like investigating, what they want to go after. I could just see what this was, and so I wanted to do was actually help my patients. In the end, I had a bit of a breakdown myself, and got taken to a Tony Robbins event, and that's the first time I ever heard anyone talk about lifestyle, diet, nutrition for preventing health.
Mhm.
So I was like, well, look, I've got a pharmacy full of sick patients. I'm going to try and make my job more fun to see if I can get them off the pills rather than onto the pills. And I got really good at doing that. And I made this healthy shopping list service, got really good at getting people off pills by changing their diet, just by writing shopping lists. That got me promoted to the head office of one of the biggest supermarket chains in the UK. And they gave me this offer to create an actual web-based home delivery shopping service of healthy
Oh,
shopping lists. So I was like, wow, this is amazing. There is a God. Wow. Like, um, the universe does want humans to get better. But then 6 months into it, boom, they shut it down. Just there was the middle management who basically didn't want me to be there in the first place, saw me as a bit of a threat. I don't know if you ever worked in a corporation. When you're the teacher's pet, the director's pet, you're the enemy of all the managements because they all
right.
think that you're going to take their job, right?
Yeah,
So I
right.
was the director's pet because I had this novel, innovative idea which he loved, and they had never had an idea in their life that the director probably liked. So I was a huge threat, and so what if you want to know who the deep state is in the world? The deep state that runs everything is the middle management.
Yes,
Middle management, the
I would agree.
instigators and the implementers of the machine that keeps everything status quo, right? So they shelved this idea. It was really hard battle anyway, getting any of my ideas, concepts to completion. And so I lost my faith in humanity, God, the spirit. I thought that there's no such thing anymore as heaven or hell, like any idea. I just thought this was all material um, accident that this humanity is, and because that's the only way I could explain the inhumanity
Right.
and the robotization
Yeah.
of human beings in the system. So I slowly broke down and got an autoimmune disease at the same time. And I got diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, where I'm now shitting blood 40 times a day for almost a year. And this was where not only the best thing ever happened to me, but also the worst pain
Mhm.
I've ever experienced in my life. Like spending more time on the toilet than off it, 40, 50 times a day. And, um, but then also like literally wearing a nappy whenever you go
Mhm.
out, because you might poo yourself, it's that bad also, like, it's horrible. And then I
Yeah.
lost a third of my body weight. And then the worst bit was when the consultant said, like, you got two choices. One, you have your colon removed, right, and wear a colostomy bag, or two, um, there's a drug that hasn't been tested yet. You can be on a trial for this drug. So I was like, no, thank you. And before that, I'd asked them, what about um, diet? Like, as I saw this benefits of changing diet. Nope, shut up, take the pills. What about stress, like management techniques? Nope, shut up, take the pills. That's the only thing that's proven. So I just surrendered. I had lost my faith in humanity anyway, myself and everything. So I was ready to
Mhm.
die, to be honest. So I disintegrated. I was about to die if I was okay with that. Then there was this one
Mhm.
moment, I had a very crazy dark night of the soul moment where everything changed. And
Mhm.
this is when um, I knew it was a do or die situation. And fate had a different uh, story for me,
Mhm.
which was this amazing woman called Swami Ambikananda, yoga teacher in the UK. She came to me and said, look, you actually have a gift. If you can turn this around, you could be an amazing role model to other people and use your story to inspire people. And this could give you a whole new career. So I was like, ah. She was covertly trying to get me to
Right.
become a yogi and follow in her footsteps. And I did do that in a different way, a bit more of a renegade way, right? So what I did was I went really deep into all of the science and evidence behind yogic techniques,
Mhm.
pranayama and breathing techniques, because the first thing she taught me was breath control. And I had
Mhm.
such a relief from the simple breathing techniques for turning off the stress. I was like, wow. And then I started to go deep into the sources that Tony Robbins got his ideas from, like Joseph Murphy, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. And I learned that there's, you know, a way we can reprogram the unconscious, which is a source of a lot of autoimmune problems,
Mm.
using affirmations and mantras, and that the mystics from the East have been trying to teach us mantras for years. And Christian Science is also just using mantras in a form of prayer. It's all
Mhm.
speaking to the God within, which is our
Mhm.
unconscious mind, the operating system of the mind. And then I started to have such crazy, amazing, um, almost miraculous like transformations for myself and manifesting opportunities and things that I started to get this real faith back in a divine power, something beyond
Mhm.
myself, a universe, but not one which is just like there's a heaven and hell and God and white coat type, I mean, white beard in the sky type character. What I realized was that actually we are living in almost like a matrix like simulation where the moment we're born, we're programmed,
Yeah.
and there's a universal game of life. Once you understand the code of the universe, the language of how we get programmed, we can create magic. We can bend reality and transform not just ourselves, but others too. And that this is a beautiful creation this universe has created for us, that it doesn't matter if there's a God or not. Once you know there's this game that you can play, there's a light that you can tap into, higher states of consciousness, which are just reflections of the best version of who you are, right? It's your highest state of existence that's possible in another reality. And we can move towards that reality, or we can choose to believe that this universe has no benevolence to it and no um, uh, like uh, code that we can actually work with, and go
Mhm.
into a very cold, sterile, dark place, as a lot of people do, who don't believe in God or anything beyond themselves. And I started to get this new perception of God for myself. It's probably
Mhm.
quite similar to what the Vedic scientists were trying to tell us all
Right.
along, and the
Mhm.
understanding of quantum science and all this stuff. And I realized that the breath has a lot to do with it, because the breath is the first thing we do when we're born and last thing we do when we die. And pranic energy, life force, is the energy that we call into us. It's what function drives every function of life, but is also what we can manipulate to transform matter and reality if we want.
Mhm.
So I got really deep into all of this stuff, went really deep into it, and created my own systems to help other people with ulcerative colitis. And I realized that music has an amazing effect,
Okay.
because music has always been part of spiritual practices, but it got corrupted by corporations who turned music into a tool to create culture as they see it, as they want it, where they can make the most money from not just selling records, but selling merchandise, selling
Yeah.
movies, selling anything to that culture. So, classic example, and this is not always good cultures that are created. Like, but classic example is the hip hop gangster rap culture, which is
Mhm.
complete manufactured culture from these demagogue music execs who have constructed reality for themselves that actually creates a very toxic culture, which creates a lot of problems, and that means that they can sell them more stuff, right? And these
Mhm.
people end up, you know, becoming like, it's like a cult. Music cultures are like cults of their own, with their gurus and leaders, right? And I was like, you know what? The music scene that I was a part of also had the good side to it, but also a very toxic, bad, dark side to it. So when I realized actually music is spiritual in nature, right? In terms of it has the potential to actually improve someone's life positively and make them a better person. Um, and that's what the Vedic book of the Sama Yoga is all about. It's a whole text on mantras, hymns, and prayers and songs that have a mystical, positive quality to it. And also explains the dark side of music too, and how you can use it for black magic. It's all in the Vedas, actually.
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
realized actually that there's a way I can make music again that is for the force of good. And what I realized was the benefit I got from music myself, from combining the breath with rhythmic music that
Mhm.
changes your state with the rhythm of the breath. And this became my first early version of Soma Breath that I started to share, got really popular. And then I ended up meeting this guy, Wim Hof, who's like this
Yeah.
incredible superhuman Iceman guy who everyone knows now. And I actually ended up being his right hand man for a while and made the music to the music Wim Hof method. So if you go to his
Okay.
app, if you go to his courses and all that, it's all my music I produce with him.
Uh,
And so that made me realize actually that this is really cool. Like this stuff really works. It's helping a lot of people. So I went deeper into it and I started to make musical breathwork journeys for all kinds of situations. And that led me to then develop neurosomatic programming, which is a tool for,
right.
it's a form of scientific prayers of reprogramming the operating system of our mind more in alignment with our best versions of who we are, what we are, by understand, because breathwork also helps you understand who you are. It reveals to you your actual code of truth. And from
Mm,
that, you can determine your core values, what you stand for, what your weaknesses are, what your limiting beliefs are, where traumas have come from. And it shakes up a lot of memories from the past, the early imprints that shapes us and creates who we are. And with that, then you can reprogram yourself and install new apps into your operating system that leads you towards being more of what you want rather than what you don't want. And I realize that we're always manifesting, we're amazing manifestors, every single one of us, and that we're just not knowing how to manifest what we really want. Most people manifest what they don't want, right? But there's a way to manifest what you truly want. And
mhm,
that's now the whole system of Soma Breath is designed to give people a positive way of life, a breath-based lifestyle with a set of incredible tools that can even be used as a recreational experience. We have the dance versions, we have the
mm.
meditations, they can be like amazing group practices, ways to celebrate life. But then we also have the real deep therapy work as well. And it's really a pharmacy I've created. It's my fuck you to big pharma. It's the antidote to the bad medicine that's been pushed onto the world.
Mm,
And that's what I want to train instructors. So my whole thing is how do I duplicate what I've achieved and get
right.
the same results? So I made a whole instructor training certification. We've even got Cambridge University have done studies with me.
Wow.
We've done the biggest breathwork study to date, and these are amazing neuroscientists, and they've got some compelling results.
Mhm.
So yeah, so that's where I am today. So now I'm talking to you about what we're doing now, and that's where we're at.
Goodness. That's it's amazing though how, life if you have the ability to piece all the pieces together, it's always all there, right? Like, like just the fact that you had to be a pharmacist, or it was recommended by your parents. That's not the battle you chose. You said, "Fine, I'll just do this. Maybe it's a good thing to have in the background, right?" And then you did your thing, your own thing, and then
Yes,
it sort of meshed and merged, and now it's transformed into a pharmacy of music, breath work, and positive medicine, right?
and
It's
fun,
and
and
fun.
fun.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well,
I
I
love my
had,
life. That's our mantra.
yes.
I love my life. Yeah.
I can see why. So
Hmm.
I had so many questions along the way, but I think maybe what might be helpful, just to get a real taste of this, I mean, is if you break it down to a person, let's say a person has a condition, whatever it is that they've been given. In your case, it was all sort of colitis. But how do you, or at this stage, do you work with them through music and then all of like what do you do now that you're where you're at besides training other people to do this? Like how do people work with you or benefit from your work?
So it's a two-step process, right?
Okay.
So the first step is awareness. So
Yes.
awareness means self-inquiry and understanding how did you get to where you are today, where you got
Right.
disease. So a lot of chronic diseases are the result of what happened in the past. That
Mhm.
the programs that the thought viruses in a lot of cases that got you to where you are today, right? And so first is to really wake up to that, to understand what that is, and to even go back in time to where certain bad habits or programs or um, you know habitual patterns have been formed. So that's the first step. Once you have awareness of
Mhm.
also how your body works, and
Yeah.
also knowing how your mind works and how your mind can destroy things and create things, right? And maintain things. But then also having a awareness of like how the body functions and that we are a hardware and a software and that the
Mhm.
mind and body are not separate, right? So imagine we are like computers, right? Where we have a hardware, so our
Mhm.
physical system and our nervous system. Then we have the operating system, which is the mind, okay? And that gets programmed and installed. And our hardware has some imprinting that happens very early on in the when you're being developed in the womb and then when you're born, but also you carry stuff, information
Mhm.
from the past. Epigenetically, that can change. But once you're aware of this, it's not hard to understand. This is what I used to do in the pharmacy. I used to tell people in very quick terms that imagine your body is like a super efficient bioengine.
Mhm.
And what happens, you got a car, right? Like, what happens if you put diesel into a petrol engine or petrol into a diesel? What happens? Have you ever done that mistake? They were like, oh, yeah, yeah, of course. I'm like, and what happens? I was like, oh, it's like, it breaks down or chugs along or have to clean it out. It's expensive. I was like, well, that's exactly what you've been doing. You've been putting the wrong fuel into your super efficient bioengine.
Mhm.
And do you want to know what the right fuel is? So fuel comes in many forms.
What
Food.
would your life be like if you were pain free? If you were one of the millions who suffer from chronic pain, the thought of just one day without it may seem impossible. This is often because conventional medicine tends to fall short in the treatment of pain, opting to prescribe pills or recommend surgery rather than getting to the root cause of the problem. But if you are suffering with emotional or physical pain, there is hope. Join the founder and CEO of Bowen College, Manon Bolliger, live online for your body-mind reboot. Learn how to listen to your symptoms and get to the root cause of your pain. Plus, be trained in basic Bowen therapy moves so that you can reboot your body for optimal health. You don't have to live in pain. You can heal. Stop the pain pill cycle by visiting www.yourbodymindreboot.com to learn more and to register.
It's food, what you put into your brain, right? What you read, you write, what
Mhm.
podcasts you listen to. That's why you should listen to this one, and so on, right? There's so many sources of fuel, right? So once you have
Eh,
awareness of this, then
mhm.
we go to the next stage, which I call meta reprogramming or meta programming. And this
Mhm.
is where we use breath work
But
to help reprogram.
before you go to the
Yeah,
breath work, I mean, part of that consciousness is understanding, I would think, as it was in your case, the limitation are of, um, pharmacology, the way it is being used, right? Like symptom suppression, this type of, the whole model is not based on making people healthy. It's really a disease management and,
correct.
that type of thing. It's a very low frequency way of operating from, it seems to be your your experience at
Yes,
his mind watching it. But I think you have to come to that understanding that that's not what's going to save you
correct.
also,
And so
right?
that's
It's
part of the awareness
the
is the
awareness.
educational piece of why you need to take your own control of your own health.
Exactly. Okay, and then let's go to the breath.
Yeah. So
That.
then, once you understand all your programs and imprints and how you've ended up where you are today, right? The next step is to realize, that your very best thoughts have got you to where you are today. So the story you're saying to yourself, the voice in your head, is actually creating your reality, right, for you.
Yeah.
So it's to take control of that. So but there's also other thoughts. Like the mind is a funny thing. Is the funny saying is, where is the mind? Never mind, right? Because we don't know
Yeah.
much about that. But what we do know is that every cell has a consciousness. Every part of your body Hardware has consciousness, so does the operating system of the mind. And there's other layers of that. There's also superconscious mind. There's the known local states of consciousness and all this. So once you understand this and how you have different levels of consciousness, you can then use tools to change your state of consciousness to be able to reprogram. So we knew this 1,000 years ago, that the ancient mystics, shamans would use psychedelics and also drumming and breathing techniques and mantras and all sorts of voodoo type stuff to wake people up into an altered state of consciousness and to clear bad programs, right, in that state. Now, there's that shamanic way of doing it, but there's another way of doing it, which is using the principles of what they're doing, but doing it through something that's, to me, a bit more scalable, which is breathwork. And this breathwork modality of rhythmic breathing, which takes ancient breathing techniques, puts into a specific sequence designed to get you into the right state of consciousness. I call it the neurosomatic bliss state, this higher state of consciousness, this full body bliss, orgasmic state where you produce a dose standing for dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins, right? That cocktail of transformation, that chemicals of transformation, will allow you, with the right intention, to rewire through neuroplasticity the hardware, right, which is where the earliest imprints came from, and clear out trauma and old baggage and old programs, and reinstall new ones, and even tap into even higher states of consciousness where divine downloads come, right, and aha moments and new perceptions of what happened in the past. So you can change what your state is in now to maybe a bit of a victim mode, or to like, oh my God, the world is shit and there's no such thing as God or universe or higher power, and to something a bit more empowering, which is there is a higher power. We can tap into it. I can take control of my health. I can change. I can heal my body. I can regrow the damaged cells and become the best version of myself if I do the work. So this is the next step, is to do the work. So I lay out a system called neurosomatic programming, which helps you to rewire old programs, right? It's very simple to do. And then we work in conjunction with that right from the beginning on the hardware. So certain breathing techniques helps you upgrade your mitochondria, make your mitochondria more efficient using oxygen, and also get oxygen to where it really needs to go in the body, which is the damaged areas of cells, or the areas of the body that have low body tissue oxygenation. So there's certain breathing techniques for that. So we get the oxygen back into where it needs to go. We get the energy balanced again in the body. We also then help people with the nutrition, the food, the healing the gut lining. You know, we have a whole protocol for gut health because a lot of people have damaged guts, which is the source of a lot of people's problems. So we work on the physical side, but then we have the breathwork techniques to help do the reprogramming. And we use this neurosomatic program, which is this guided process. It's my own process of basically helping people to speak to the unconscious mind by going into a magic room, like as a visualization technique, and then they reprogram the unconscious, and that's what leads to then the eventual change, transformation. And there's one active key mechanism in the breath that leads to all the magic, right? And it's called kumbhaka, or nishesha rechaka kumbhaka, which is the breath hold. It's the state where you pause your breath, right? When you hold your breath, and this is what we showed in the Cambridge studies, you can get into a state of consciousness that like psychedelics get into, DMT, psilocybin, ketamine, which alters your state of consciousness in a way where it allows you to have a new perception of reality and your past and your situation. And it allows you to then get into a state where you feel much more connected to yourself and something beyond yourself, and you enter into these very profound bliss-like states that for some people they've never experienced before in their life, this overwhelming bliss feeling. Like, and that in itself shakes you up and wakes you up and makes you feel empowered again and positive again. And from that comes a change.
Well, it's really the experience that it's not intellectual at that stage, right? It's not theoretical anymore. You actually feel the difference.
Yeah, everything we do is experience, is
Yeah,
taught experientially.
yeah. That's quite. What about frequency? Does that, because you mentioned rhythm, which I relate to very much because I feel that it changes things for me. But what about frequency? Is that some people say that, there was a change from 440 to 4, it used to be an earlier frequency of, I think, 428 or something.
Yeah,
Um, it-
528. So this is where I am slightly unpopular in these more new agey
yeah,
realms,
no problem.
because I debunked all of this. So firstly, I went fully down the rabbit hole. At first, I went down that rabbit hole and I started to make all this music of that nature, right?
Mhm.
And it got quite popular on YouTube and all this, and I was making even money from it. And then I sent it to my friend, who's like a high-level musician. He's incredible composer, plays every instrument you can imagine, but also got a PhD in music and acoustic engineer. And he just is the most smartest guy I know in terms of music. And I said to him, "Hey man, I think this stuff is really cool. Like, what do you think of it? Like, maybe you want to help me make some apps or devices for this." He took one look at it and he just debunked every single aspect of it. And then I was like, "Oh my God." So then I started to go in and do it myself to see whether any of this made sense. So the problem with, okay, do you want me to debunk it now?
Sure. I mean,
Do we have time?
well, I mean, I wanted to end with what you love and what you're putting forward, but if you can do it in a short time or give us a reference, that would be great.
Yeah.
But go ahead, do a little debunking. I'm curious.
Okay. Okay. So 528 hertz was a thing made up by this guy, Leonard Horowitz, who also wrote this book. And it was written by this guy called Dr. Pulio, right? Who, when you go into it, is the Bible Codes of the Apocalypse or something like that, it's called, the book. Anyway, so I actually thought, instead of just reading the headlines on his blog, I should actually read the source material. So I started to do that, and then what I realized was that quickly it unravels. I actually have some Instagram reels. You go to my Instagram, Niraj Naik Official, that has all the debunkings, and you can look it up. Loads of people have done it since. But basically, this guy who's the ghostwriter of this book doesn't even exist. I think he's like just a made up character. I can't find any reference to him. But then what he's done is he's said that there's these hidden codes in the Bible, and one of them is 528 hertz. And when you look at it, and all the things he says about Pythagoras and so, um, when you actually go through all of the facts, every point that he makes, none of them make sense. They're not truth, right? And also, the guy who invented hertz was in the 19th century. And the Bible, they didn't have things in hertz then. So that's the first one, right? The first easy one to discredit. And then with 432 hertz, so then I think what they got inspired by was that this guy had made such an impact with 528 hertz. The whole industry of 528 hertz music was made. So somebody else came up with the 432 hertz, right? Saying, no, this is the frequencies. They all have a different story of the Nazis or the Rockefellers. One says it's the Rockefellers, the other one says the Nazis who changed all the standard tuning. Who is it? Which conspiracy is valid? Right? And then the other thing is there's a war between Leonard Horowitz, the 528 hertz people, and the 432 hertz. They hate each other. So there's a battle of two sides, two versions, and then they've debunked each other, right? So it's a bit of a farce, in my opinion. And here's the thing: the truth is that back in the day, like when globalization started to happen a bit more, where people were traveling more to different countries, orchestras were moving around, they wanted music to sound the same and it to be easy for musicians to come and just tune quickly to get into a standard tuning, right? That everyone can measure with a device or something. So they just came up with 440 hertz, and it wasn't the Rockefellers. It was the British kind of music academy who came up with the standard tune. It was nothing to do with the Nazis. It was before even Nazis really came into power, and so on and so forth. So there's so many holes to the stories. What it has done is made a lot of money for the people who sell that kind of music. I don't want to spoil the magic. If people like it, then great. But I'll give you an example like of the placebo effect of it. Is I actually, for a laugh after this, I realized all this. I thought I'm just going to make a track that is just 440 hertz, upload it to YouTube, and just call it a 432 hertz track to see what people think. And the comments were just incredible testimonials from people. So there's just long lists of positive comments, right? So I was like, well, should I spoil the magic or not? No, let them all enjoy the benefits that they're getting. So it, and that was a 440 hertz track that got the same positive comments as the ones that I did actually tune to 432 hertz. So anyway, as a scientist, a musician, and someone who wants the truth, I realized that actually it doesn't matter what frequencies that you tune things to, because ultimately it's how it makes you feel, right? That's what's really important, how it changes your state. So I make music with the words and the meanings behind them that changes your state, makes you feel like you've been touched by something beyond yourself, right? That is not like creating a bad culture, it's making a more positive culture. And that's what I focus on more. I don't need to change the frequency because I don't believe it has any importance to whether someone gets better or not.
Okay. So it's the alignment they have with how it makes them feel, because ultimately that's part of the journey is having the insight to realize that you're feeling good, which means that there's actually more happening in part, right? With a breath. And
because what was happening with that 432 hertz thing was because I'd made articles about it. People were writing to me who had fear now of going to a supermarket and listening to the people playing the music. So it was creating agoraphobia in people, the paranoia. That people couldn't listen to, they couldn't go out anymore in public because they were scared of, being subjected to 440 hertz music. So I was like, no, this is the reverse of what we want, actually. This is bad. This is bad. This is black magic now, not white magic. I think Leonard Horowitz' intention may have been white magic, but it turned into something a bit more black, on the grey black side, right? So I'm just like, no. Music is actually subjective as well. Like some people love death metal, heavy, hardcore death metal music, right? I don't like it. It doesn't make me feel good. But maybe if you do an experiment on what's happening to their physiological state when they listen to it, maybe they're getting a positive release of all the good hormones like endorphins and serotonin and positive hormones, right? Oxytocin, the love frequency, which is the real love hormone, right? And maybe it doesn't work for me, but it does for them. And so music's so subjective, right? Like I can't say what is the right type of music for anyone. You can't. It's because everyone has different tastes. So what I do know is that like there's definitely chord sequences and also lyrics combined with certain chord sequences that, because chord sequences can change your state. They can make you feel dark. They can make your state and make you feel angry. They can make you feel in a melancholic. There's even a name for it, emo, right? Emotional, right? Can be positive or negative, but there is music like that exists. But there's also the lyrics that go with it. They're carefully constructed by record companies as a way to corrupt culture, right? Because now it's turning into a spell. They're turning into rituals and sorcery in a way. So there is that going on. There's no doubt about it. It's got nothing to do with frequencies. It's all to do with the messaging and the way it's marketed, promoted. And you can clearly see what it does corrupt. I mean, look at the Diddy story, for example, right?
Yeah.
And look at
So
all the wannabe Diddies who have emerged from what he put out in the world, right?
yeah,
So there's that going on for sure, and I want to be the antidote to that. It
right.
doesn't mean the music isn't cool. It doesn't mean the music
Yeah,
has to have panpipe only and like cheesy like country and western songs or whatever your taste is. No, it can be cool. It can be cutting edge. It can have electronic beats. It can have a fat bass line to it. It can have cool hip hop lyrics. It can have that edge. It can have the street vibe, but the messaging is different. It's more conscious lyrics.
yeah,
And so that turns the music into what I think is white magic, that is magic that's actually improving and enhancing it all. But you know what? After all of this, still, my journey has led me to believe that ultimately, when you wake up and you transcend, there is no right or wrong. There's this black and dark, this yin and yang has to exist in order
right.
for us to even understand what's light and what's dark. And that's the nature of reality. And the game is to be able to dance with the darkness, to learn from it, but also be able to turn it into something that gives us meaning and purpose in life. A lot of meaning and purpose comes from being in the dark side of it.
Yeah, yeah. Or witnessing the impact of it, which we all,
from insight.
yes, exactly, from inside of it. Thank God we don't all have to go through it.
Yeah, 100%. I went through it.
So our time is truly up, and it was such a pleasure to get these insights from you from so many perspectives. And so if people, I think you gave me a list of where people could go to find out more about your work, or if they wanted to get trained or join. Is that all? You've given that to us already?
Yeah, so go to Niraj Naik official on Instagram. You can DM me the word breath, right? And you'll get access to lots of free cool stuff, like access to our app and some discounts on our courses and free training. But also you can go to our website, somabreath.com, and there you'll find all the information on how to become a Soma Breath instructor. Also do our 21 days and find instructors near you, and go and experience the Soma Breath journey and see what I mean. I don't listen to everything I've said. Don't believe a word I said. Go and experience it, then tell me how you feel, and maybe also do some research on the things I've said. Go and do some further reading. Try and debunk everything I've said. And from that debunking will come the truth for you and some enlightenment, hopefully, too.
Well, thank you so much, Niraj.
Cool. Thank you. Amazing.
Thank you for joining us at the Healers Café. If you haven't already done so, please like, comment, and subscribe with notifications on, as I post a new podcast every Wednesday with tons of useful information and tips for natural healing that you won't want to miss.